Welcome to Unit 4 of the Compliant Trade, showing real estate property. Let's get started. In this unit, we will examine key compliance requirements and restrictions concerning searching and showing real estate property. This includes reviewing best practices for showing appointments, open houses, access to the property, professional conduct, property that meets the client's criteria, material facts, and seller property information statements, SPIS. Matthew is now focusing on helping Sophie find a new property because it looks like she is going to be selling her current home soon. Sophie would like to have a new home lined up for purchase as soon as the sale of her current home goes through. Let's see what kind of support Matthew is offering Sophie with regards to showings and open houses. Matthew received a lockbox code from the seller's brokerage to show Sophie a property listed by another brokerage. The seller requires that a salesperson from either brokerage is present during showings. All visitors must remove shoes before entering the property. The front and back doors should always be closed. Don't let the dog out. And lock up after the appointment and turn all lights off except for the kitchen. Click Next to take a look at the interaction between Matthew and Sophie, who happens to have arrived early to the property and is trying to contact him. Click the arrows to toggle between scenes. Click Next to answer a question about the scenario. How would you reply to Sophie? Would you comply with her request? Why or why not? Matthew must politely decline Sophie's request to enter the property unaccompanied or unsupervised. Under no circumstances should you communicate or provide a lockbox code to a non-registrant, including potential buyers. The seller gave clear instructions to the listing brokerage that a salesperson is to be present for all showings. Giving Sophie the code to the lockbox and allowing her in the property without being present would contravene these instructions. Access that is unauthorized, unsupervised, or outside of scheduled appointment times is unacceptable because of the potential risk to real and personal property, privacy, safety, and security of both buyers and sellers. If Matthew allows Sophie or anyone else to enter the house without the owner's consent, he can expect to be prosecuted. How does your answer compare to ours? Here are 3 things that come to Matthew's mind as he considers how to respond to Sophie given the circumstances. This is the best response. Under no circumstances should Matthew provide a lockbox code to a non-registrant. Matthew must communicate any change of plans as soon as possible to the listing brokerage and the buyer to cancel or reschedule the appointment. Click the button to continue. Matthew is planning an open house and a few scheduled appointments to show his client's home. He's using this opportunity to bring along a recently registered colleague. Doing open houses with the assistance of another colleague is always a good idea, and the brokerage is empowering Matthew to mentor its staff. Matthew asks his colleague to review a list with recommendations ahead of the open houses and showings that they will be conducting together. Click the buttons to review each item. Lockbox authorization. If a client agrees to install a lockbox, granting access to the home in their absence, you should document their approval in a written direction to the brokerage. The clients should sign the authorization, and you should provide a copy to the client before the lockbox is installed. Access. Unauthorized access is unacceptable. This includes access outside of scheduled appointments or open house times and letting unauthorized parties access the property without supervision or consent from the seller. These would present a risk to real and personal property, privacy, safety, and security of both buyers and sellers. Lockbox use. You must not share the lockbox code with a non-registrant, including potential buyers, third-party contractors including appraisers, home inspectors or related professionals, or any unregistered brokerage assistants supporting you in the open house. Also, you must remain in the property for the duration of the open house or appointment. At the conclusion of the visit, secure the property and place the key back in the lockbox. Attendance. Arrive on time to the appointment, and keep in mind that being early can be as problematic as being late. For instance, there could be tenants currently living in the property. You don't want to walk into the home only to find that they are sleeping or taking a shower. You should be the first one to arrive to, and the last one to leave the open house or appointment to show the property. This way, you can adequately prepare the property for visitors and ensure it is secured before you leave. Under no circumstances should you leave the open house or appointment while visitors remain unsupervised in the property. Visitor's log. It is a leading practice for you to keep track of who enters the property by asking each visitor to complete a sign-in form. If the client requests it, you must follow their instructions on requiring identification from all visitors. Valuables and personal information. You should advise clients to secure valuables and private information. This includes portable electronics, jewelry, credit cards, passports, and travel documents, personal photos, receipts, bills, and personal information. Another option is to suggest the sellers install video surveillance. In this case, clients will want to observe local municipality bylaws for the use of video surveillance. For example, some municipalities require that the cameras be pointed at the owner's property and not towards public or private spaces adjacent to the property. Bear in mind that each municipality may have different bylaws. Assist your client in researching these. Number of visitors. If you anticipate a large number of visitors, consider ways to limit and supervise them. For example, you can assign designated time slots to visit the property. limit the number of people who can go in at the time, or have another registered real estate salesperson on site. If another registered salesperson cannot accompany you, you may have a brokerage assistant on site to help escort visitors as they tour the property. However, the unregistered assistant should not address or entertain any conversations on trading. Visitors' conduct. You must take steps to prevent issues with the visitor's conduct during an open house or scheduled appointments. Ensure all visitors are mindful that they are in someone else's home. Client's instructions. You should ask about and carefully follow the client's lawful instructions on access to the property and their rules for visitors. For example, requesting identification from all visitors, removing shoes before entering, or limiting access to certain areas of the home. In addition to the client's instructions, there are also customer service and courtesy items that are an industry standard. These include leaving the property in the same condition as you found it, ensuring the safety of the owner's pet during your visit, turning lights off, and locking doors and windows, among others. Let's see how Lily, our other registrant, is doing with her clients. Lily is arranging a home inspection requested by her client, the buyer. Click Next to take a look at an interaction between Lily and the home inspector. Click the arrows to toggle between scenes. Click Next to answer a question about the scenario. What concerns may arise from leaving the contractor and the buyer clients unsupervised at the property? What would you do in Lily's case? Under no circumstances should Lily leave others unsupervised at the property. This includes appraisers, home inspectors, related professionals, and potential buyers. Lily was trusted with the code to the lockbox which secures the key to the home. She is responsible for what happens during her visit and for the people that she brings with her. Lily must remain in attendance for the duration of the appointment. Make sure that the visitors leave when she leaves, secure the property, and place the key back in the lockbox at the end of the appointment. How does your answer compare to ours? Andrew is a newly registered real estate salesperson. He was given the lockbox code to the seller's home to show the property to one of his buyer clients. The client is a DJ who happens to be friends with Andrew. The seller is away, and the listing salesperson is not in attendance. Click Next to see what happens when they tour the house. Click the arrows to toggle between scenes. Click Next to answer a question about the scenario. The couple of people the buyer was talking about turned out to be quite a crowd, and a quick celebratory toast turned into a full-blown party. Unbeknownst to Andrew, the seller asked a neighbor to keep an eye on the place during his absence. Upon his return, the seller goes to the neighbor's home to ask how things went. Click Next to take a look at an interaction between the seller and his neighbor. Click the arrows to toggle between scenes. Click Next to answer a question about the scenario. What concerns arise from Andrew's behavior? Has he breached any of his obligations? How so? Andrew lost control of the situation. What should have been an otherwise successful showing turned into a series of non-compliant behaviors. Accessing the property outside a designated showing schedule, allowing unauthorized visitors into the property, and consuming alcohol during the visit, among others. The code establishes that you must not engage in any conduct that would reasonably be considered inappropriate for a real estate professional. Also, unauthorized access, including access outside of scheduled appointment times, is unacceptable. It poses a significant risk to real and personal property, privacy, safety, and security of any visitors and the sellers. In this case, Andrew could face multiple criminal charges and civil lawsuits from the owners, as well as disciplinary action from RECO under Section 39 of the Code. Clients trust that you will behave professionally when they give you access to their property. You must not take advantage of your own or another brokerage's client by betraying or compromising that trust. How does our answer compare to yours? Remember Sophie, Matthew's client who is selling her investment property? She has also been trying to find a new investment property to purchase. She is looking for something in the low 900s within proximity to North Park. Matthew is aware of 2 properties being offered with different commission rates. Click Next to take a look at an interaction between Matthew and Shannon, a registrant from another brokerage who listed one of the properties Sophie is interested in. Click the arrows to toggle between scenes. Click Next to answer a question about the scenario. What do you think Matthew should do? What could happen if he withholds information about one of the properties? Matthew is pondering whether he should only show Sophie the property which offers a higher commission. He intends to withhold information about the property with the lower asking price on account of the lower cooperating commission. This is a bad idea. Section 19 of the Code of Ethics requires that Matthew inform Sophie about any property that meets her criteria, regardless of commission or other remuneration. How does our answer compare to yours? Let's see how Lily, the salesperson with Open Lane Realty Group, is doing. Apparently, Lily listed a property and forgot to mention the seller property information statement her client completed and expressly instructed Lily to disclose with the listing. Several weeks passed before the first showing, and the SPIS was forgotten altogether. A prospective buyer viewed the property with his sales representative and submitted an offer which the seller accepted. After closing, the buyer discovered that the property had significant drainage issues that required remedial work amounting to over $25,000. He took legal action against the seller for repair costs. The seller, in his defense, produced his copy of the SPIS, which referenced similar problems in the past. Click Next to answer a question about this situation. Can Lily be held accountable for this mistake? That is correct. Lily failed to disclose the existence of the SPIS as required by Section 20 of the Code of Ethics. She should expect to face disciplinary action from RECO, litigation from affected parties, and other negative outcomes. If Lily knew that the seller client had completed an SPIS, she had an obligation to inform every interested buyer of its existence and make it available upon request, unless directed otherwise by the seller in writing. Click the Legislation button for more details, or click the Pro Tip button to learn more. Alternatively, you can just click the Continue button for the next scenario. An SPIS, when properly used, can provide useful additional information about the listed property, which typically is not included in a seller representation or listing agreement. Here are the steps to follow when a seller client has completed an SPIS. First, make sure to fill out the appropriate entry field on your local listing service. This is usually a check mark or a tick box. Next, make sure to disclose the existence of the SPIS to every potential buyer and make it available upon request, unless directed in writing by the client otherwise. Finally, have the recipient acknowledge in writing that the SPIS was shared and viewed. If you complete all these steps, then you are completely defensible should an SPIS-related complaint arise. Now, if an SPIS reveals problems and your client gives you express written direction to conceal this information, make sure they understand they are exposing themselves to a major lawsuit, and keep detailed records of all conversations with your client. That is correct. Lily failed to disclose the existence of the SPIS as required by Section 20 of the Code of Ethics. She should expect to face disciplinary action from RECO, litigation from affected parties, and other negative outcomes. If Lily knew that the seller client had completed an SPIS, she had an obligation to inform every interested buyer of its existence and make it available upon request, unless directed otherwise by the seller in writing. Click the Legislation button for more details, or click the Pro Tip button to learn more. Alternatively, you can just click the Continue button for the next scenario. Let's go back to Matthew and Sophie, who are viewing a property. Matthew noticed some rusty staples in the baseboard and wall paneling in the basement. Upon closer inspection, he found some efflorescence on one of the concrete blocks in an unfinished area of the basement. This is usually a sign of moisture and mold issues. Click Next to see how the conversation unfolded between Matthew and the seller's rep. Click the arrows to toggle between scenes. Click Next to answer a question about the scenario. What should Matthew do with his newly found information? That is correct. Matthew must inform his client about any issues that could affect her decision to purchase the property as soon as possible. This is also a great opportunity, as per Section 8 of the Code, to refer her to a professional with expert knowledge in this type of problem. By being vigilant during the showing, Matthew became aware of a potential material fact and took steps to find out more information from the seller's representative. For Matthew to be fully compliant with this section of the Code, the next step is to disclose material facts to his client at the earliest possible opportunity. Click the Legislation or Pro Tip buttons to learn more, or click the Continue button for the next scenario. A material fact can be described as any fact that would affect a reasonable person's decision to buy or sell real estate. The Code of Ethics requires disclosure of pertinent facts both to your clients and customers. With customers, the obligation is limited to revealing only those material facts that are known, or ought to be known, by the registrant. For clients, the obligation is more encompassing, as it requires taking reasonable steps to determine such facts and disclose them to your clients. Actively asking your clients about their preferences will help you better identify, research, and disclose these material facts. Ask them about their must-haves, the things they don't like, and most importantly, the issues that would change their mind about buying or selling a property. We just learned that when it comes to material facts, your obligation to your clients is to take reasonable steps to determine such facts and disclose them to your clients as soon as possible. Now, what exactly are reasonable steps? That would depend on each situation. However, there are a few general guidelines that can help you achieve a compliant level of service. Click the items to review each step. Ask questions to all involved parties, to neighbors, to other professionals experienced in specialized subjects, to more experienced colleagues, and to local or municipal authorities, among others. Make an effort. Strive to obtain all the necessary details that will enable you to assist your client in making an educated decision about buying or selling real estate. Do independent research. Use the internet, visit the property, talk to neighbors, observe the neighborhood, compare the property to similar listings, and check the local newspapers or bulletins to keep your fingers on the pulse of the community and surroundings. Satisfy yourself that everything is okay, and document all steps taken to the point that anyone else who is reviewing your conduct would be satisfied. For example, buyers will want to know how much they will pay annually in property tax. Reasonable steps to determine this amount would include asking the seller for a copy of their latest property tax receipt, accessing GeoWarehouse or a similar service to determine the tax amount online, and contacting the municipality to determine the tax amount for the property. You have reached the end of Unit 4 in the compliant trade, showing real estate property. Now you will be able to recognize key compliance requirements and considerations when searching for and showing properties that meet the client's criteria. You will be able to apply best practices for showings and open houses and adhere to guidelines for professional conduct when providing access to a property. You will also meet compliance requirements on disclosure of material facts and the use of seller property information statements, SPIS. Click the Exit tab or X button to advance to Unit 5, Drafting and Handling Offers to Purchase Real Estate.